Hello, friends. Let's start with a new discussion of a new topic, which is called functions in C. And it is one of the very interesting and very important topic or important chapter in C programming language. In real life problems, when you are going to handle the real life problems, you must have to use the concept of function in your C programming. So let's start with discussion of function. It has a huge amount of advantages or benefits in case of C programming languages. The function is nothing but a self-contained block which will be used to do some specific task. So that is the very basic bookish definition of a function. That a function is also called a module. So C is a modular programming language, which I already discussed in my last classes. So you should remember that because of the using of the concept of function, that's why we can say C is a modular programming language. Now, till now, whatever programs you have already done, you have used several functions, right? Mostly you're using system defined functions. So what are those system defined functions? Like here, which is also called a library function, which has been shown here. So printf, scanf, then pow functions. Okay, all the functions you have already used, which are system defined function, or several functions I have already shown in my last lectures on string functions. Okay, the string length to find out the length of its function. It's all a system defined whose job or whose task has been predefined by the system. So you cannot change the job or task of that particular function. Now there is another concept of function, another type of function in the classification. It's called user defined functions. Very interesting functions. So in user defined functions, so a user is the sole definer of that particular function. User can define the function, and even user can specify the job of the function or the task of the function, right? So let me give you one example, real life example. Suppose there is it's a birthday party is arranged by the CR of your friend of your class, right? So CR, there is a birthday of CR. Now CR has given the responsibility to five or ten friends to do different tasks. Suppose he has given the responsibility to one of his friends to prepare the birthday cake for 50 people, right? So then he has given the responsibility to another to his another friend to arrange the dinner, okay, or to arrange. He has given the responsibility to another friend to arrange the birthday party, the music systems and all these things. So and another friend for the decoration. So different friends has a different responsibility has been given. So those friends are working like a functions, right? Because CR is the main one, is the main function. So each and every of his friends must report to CR because it is his birthday. He actually going to pay for all the other activities. Okay, so CR is the main function which you have to maintain, okay, which you have to report, and all the other functions of different friends are different functions which are doing different jobs, various jobs specific to them, right? So they are going to report to the CR function to the job. So CR main responsibility to collect all the feedback from all his friends who has been given different jobs to in a one place, and then execute the feedback or execute the jobs at a particular time on that particular date of his birthday party, right, before the guest, okay, in front of the guest. So these functions are also called modules, okay. So a large program function mainly used for those cases where you are going to write a large program. That means a quite few number of lines. For a small program, you don't require to use the functions. It will actually enlarge the size of the program if you are not using function. But for a large program, it has several advantages to use functions, which are nothing but subdivision of the program into some sub modules, which is also called subprograms, and these subprograms are called functions. Now, and each and every C program must contain at least one function. The main function, all of you know that I have told multiple times these things. Now, these are the advantages of functions. The function make your structured program where a large program can be divided into smaller parts, and it makes it simpler task to identify the errors, to identify the problem. It will be a simpler. Now, suppose in that birthday party, suppose the arrangement of the foods is not up to the mark, right? So the CR can directly ask his friend who has been given the responsibility to arrange the food, that why the food quality is low, or what is the problem is of arranging the food quality, right? So CR can easily specify the friend and ask about that particular problem. But if CR does not have any idea that who has the responsibility to do that particular food arrangement, then it is a difficult task. So in the same way, in a large program, if the program is divided into some sub modules or functions, then it can be easier for a tester or debugger to find a debug of to find a bug or problem into the program according to the complaint of the customer and debug that particular problem. So it makes it easier, flexible, and allowing the code to be called many times, easier to read and update. So by the help of function, you just call the functions from the main function. How many times you will call the function from the main function, that number of times the function will execute. So a repetition of the code, you will get that advantage from the function. It is easier to debug a structure, but I have already discussed to find fix and problem, right? So these are very basic example of function. I'm giving my own example of the function. So I'm just skipping this one. Now there are some uh, how to define a particular function. Let's check how to define a particular function. So these are general definition of a particular function. A return type is there. Okay, if it's an integer function or a float function, return type means every function must return a value. If a function does not return a value, then in this return type it will be replaced by a void. So in case of main, I have sometimes I have used a void main. You remember that thing in most of the programs. So void means no return value. So now sometimes instead of void main, I have used int main. So when I have given int main, if you remember at the last statement before the closing of the closing brace, before the ending of the closing brace, I have written return 0. So integer is always expecting that your function will return some integer. It may be any value or integer value, or it may be 0 by default. If it does not return any value, you have to forcefully return 0. Otherwise, int main you cannot write. You have to write void main instead of int main. Otherwise, it will give error. Right. So this is a return type. So it is really the purpose of the programmer when he or she wants to return the value. Okay, the function definition is actually, we say user defined function is totally based on the user or the programmer choice when it will define, when it will return or something else, right? Now function name is the user choice, user name, just like array name, you can give a function name according to your choice. Now parameter list. So this is important, this is also optional. Your function may have parameter, your function may not have parameters. So again, based on the purpose of the programmer, he or she can define a list of parameters. Okay, so there may be one parameter you can define, or it may be multiple parameters separating by commas you can define. How to define the parameter, I will show you. Now this is the body of the function where you will do the actual job or specific task of the function, and then the closing brace. Okay, now the return type, function name, parameter, and function body, all the description given. Now I'm showing you one basic declaration of a function. Now this is a function which will return the maximum value between two numbers, right? So the function name they have been using they have been using max, and the return type int. So it will return one value which is the largest one, right? So int num1 1, these two are the parameter list, and these are the data type associated with the parameter list. Okay, so this num1 and num2 will be compared, and which one is the larger, it will return. So int result, if num1 greater than num2, result equal to num1, else result equal to num2. Very simple logic. Now return result. Which one is the largest? It will store into the variable result, and that result value we will return. So we can also return a variable. This variable is obviously integer type variable. Okay, because this type should be matched. Otherwise, it will give error. If you return a float value, then you have to write a float return type. Or if you return a return integer value, you have to type a intelligent type. Otherwise, there is a mismatch error, right? Now, how to declare a function? A function in your entire program, the function uh, can be uh, can be represented can be given into three ways. Okay, in your entire program, the first one is function override declaration or function declaration. Second one is function calling. Okay, which you will do from the main method. That means your CR is the main method, and CR calling the particular friends to do a particular job. So calling should be done from the under the guidance of the CR. Okay, and another one is function definition. Function definition means that the friends who are doing the particular job, he will define the job. So that is the function definition. And declaration means just it will give that who is doing the job. Okay, just a prototype, okay, of what functions are using in throughout the program, right? So in function declaration can be done in this way, and the main interesting point of function declaration that it must have a semicolon. It must be ended with a semicolon, right? So there means the return type, function name, and parameter name, and must be ended with semicolon. So function definitions differs from function declaration based on the concept of the semicolon. Function definition does not require semicolon, does not have semicolon, whereas function return type must have a semicolon, right? The int max, int num1, int num2. So there is a difference between this line. Is there any difference between this line and this line? This is a function definition. This is a function definition. So it does not have any semicolon. It has some body of doing some specific job, and this is a function declaration which is ended, which must be ended with a semicolon. It does not have any body. This function declaration can also be written in this way. You can only use the data type instead of variables here. Okay, you can also do this thing. Now, calling the function, how to call a function. Now, let's check one program they have been given, the same program they have been given. Now, how to call this max function from the main function. I have already told this function has no value. Suppose your friends who are making a birthday cake for the birthday for the organizing of the birthday of CR. And now CR suddenly cancel his birthday party. Now, what the particular friends will do with that particular cake? He will do nothing. He will just throw away the cake because there is no use of cake because the birthday has been cancelled. So your CR is actually the main function who is actually given the responsibility to that sub function or sub module to do a particular job. So here the same way, this a max function doing a job of maximum, finding the maximum value between two numbers, and this max function must be called from the main function, main method. Okay, so the function which is not called from the main method, those function will not going to be executed. Please remember, the function which are not called from the main method, the function will is not going to be executed. Clear? So if there are 10 functions in a program, this is only one function. If there are 10 functions in your program, then you have to make all the 10 calls within the main method if you want to be execute all the 10 functions. If you among these 10 functions, if you are going to make a declaration of only two functions, making a call of only two functions in the main method, that only those two functions will be getting executed, and rest of the 8 functions are not going to be executed for that particular. Please remember. So as per the choice, as per the purpose of the programmer will do the calling. Am I clear? So int main, int a equal to 100, int b equal to 200 in return. So calling a function to get a message. So how to call a function? Give a function name followed by the parameter list. So this name of the parameters may be same or may not be same. Okay, so it depends on the coder. So my suggestion is that use different parameter names to avoid the confusion of using the same name, because whatever value will pass through the a variable during the calling of the function, the same value will be passed through the num1 variable during the definition of the functions. Okay, so don't worry about it, right? So return equal to max a comma b. So, but the one thing is very important: the data type of a and b should be matched with the data type of function. So it's the integer type, it also should be an integer type, otherwise there is error. Am I clear? Now when the control comes into this statement, the control jumps from this statement to find whether there is any function of the name max and with these two parameters this present in your program or not. If it is not present, then it will give an error. If it is present, then it will execute that particular function, return the result, and the return result should be stored into that variable rate equal to maximum. So these functions actually return a value. Which value it will return? It will return the result value. Result is actually stored the maximum value in between num1 and num2. So that value will be stored into a rate. So obviously the rate should be an integer type. Clear? You can directly print the value here instead of giving storing into a variable. You can directly print a percentage and do that call. It is also allowed here. Okay. So in the next line it will print the return value, and this value will execute. The maximum value will get 200. Right? So based on this return type, so three things we will know. One is the function declaration. Every program must have function declarations, also for function prototype declarations. Okay, which will represent the prototype type of things of the main functions. Okay, so it will be similar with this one, only semicolon should be added. Then within the main function there must be a function call which you want to execute. Okay, and then there's a function definition, right? So these three parts must be present of any function, right? So based on this concept, there are four types of classification has been done uh, on the types of function. These are the types of function. Function with no arguments, no return value. That means a function. So I've already told this argument type, this parameter type, these return types are actually depends on the programmer. It's a programmer choice whether he or she can give the parameter list, or he or she cannot give the parameter list. So there are four types of function with no arguments, no return value. A function with no argument or return value. A function with an argument or returning no value. A function with both have arguments as well as a value, returning a value. So 100011011 in this way. So I am going to show you one program in the online compiler, which will give you the idea of how we will do that. So there's a one online compiler I have used in my previous cases. So I am just doing a simple calculator type of operation using functions, which you have already done in your previous case without using functions. So I have declared two functions here, sum and sub. So this is a prototype declaration of two functions, because calculator I am going to do two operations, summation of the values and subtraction of the value. Now, the thing is that if you look at the declaration, you can check that the declaration is in two different ways. So this declaration has a return type but no argument list or parameter list, and this subtraction declaration has no return type but argument list, two argument list or parameter list. Let's check it. Is a prototype declaration of main function. So I have defined two variable with the value 7 and 5, k and l variable, and now some function I have called. So this function I have called without any return type, right? Sorry, without any argument list here. So in the previous case, in the max function, if you remember the previous case, in case of max function, it will be called with the return type, right? With the argument list. So it depends on the programmer. I have already told multiple times, depends on the programmer whether he or she can give the argument list or if he or she cannot give the argument list. Now the same function, after the control reaches here, the control find there is any function of sum. Yes, it will find a function of sum with the return type integer. So the program must return a value. So return s. So s is a sum value of a plus b. So here we have been declared here as a compile time. So it return s. S is the integer type, so it has it's integer, and because it is returning some value, you can print the value here. You can store the value here f, or you can directly, instead of f, you can directly write the function here, sum of function. Okay, am I clear? Now you can also do this two command line I have given. So you can also print the value without returning this thing. You can also print the value. So I have already told return type you may give, you may not give. It really depends upon the choice. So let's check it first. So in this same manner, if I will run this code, how it will work. So I've directly given the values, so I think I don't need to require the value. So the result of sum is 12. Okay, so 7 plus 5, 12. Now instead of that, if I am not using any return type, can I do that? Yes, I can do that. Probably it depends on the programmer. So I have to active this statement. Obviously, we should not return any value from here because I have omit the return type, where instead of returning, we directly print the sum value here. Okay, so here we are not going to. One thing we'll do here, we can make it command line, and instead of f, we are directly calling the function without return type. So we will check whether it will correctly run or not. Void sum, conflicting types of sum, conflicting types of sum. Acha, sorry, it will return it. It will print the value. We have already print the value, so we don't need to print it here. So let me change it, make it. We just simply call the function, because value print is already there during the definition of the function here in this statement. So we don't require to print again the value, right? So just calling the function, that will be enough to printing the value. Let's check it. This time this will run. Int sum prototype declaration. Okay, the prototype declaration we have to change. So there should be map everywhere. Okay, whatever you will do, that should be similar to everywhere. Otherwise, it will give it a very simple. This is the sum of it. Am I clear? So here I am checking a function with no return type, no argument. In the previous case, which I have already been changed, this is a function with return type but no argument. So 0110 case, you can understand what I am trying to say. Clear? Now the same thing we will do for subtraction, but in subtraction we'll just change one thing, that instead of we are directly defining the value within the function, instead of we are passing in the value from the main functions through the subtraction function and receive those values during the definition. So 7 and 5 we have passed. So this 7 and 5 has been received by the variables c and d respectively, and then we can perform the subtraction operation and we can print the value. So it will not return anything, so you can easily print the value. So 7 minus uh, 5, oh, sorry, void will be changed, must be changed, int return. So 7 minus 5, 2 will be the subtraction result. This is the 2 is the subtraction result. Am I clear? So in this way, you can do any combinations of the classification of functions. Okay, and it totally depends on the programmer choice, programmer type. So this is all about the basics of the functions. Very interesting. I think all of you should practice it at your home. I am going to show you one more program here to do the factorial uh, of a number by using functions. Already basic factorial program here all of you have already done without using functions, so it is the logic is very much known to you with using functions. So So here I am doing the factorial. So int factorial int definition I've given, int youth another function I've used here, and I've used a global variable. It's a global variable which has been defined before, outside the main functions, outside all the functions. That's why it's called a global variable. I have already discussed about the global variable. Now this is the variable n that you are going to read through the keyboard to do the factorial on that n variable. So we'll call the factorial function and passing that n variable. Suppose if you are giving 5, so that 5 value will be passed through the factorial function, right? So the control searching for a factorial function, yes, it is received here. So that 5 will be passed through that same variable L. So this variable name may be different, but the same value will be passing through these two variables simultaneously. So for I equal to 1 to L, this is a logic of factorial, right? All of you know, all of you are aware about the logic. So within that function, I am calling one more function. This is called nested function. So within one function definition, I am going to call another function. Very simple. What is that function? Is equal to 10 return. Just simply a value has been defined and I am returning. There is no use. So conceptually, logically, there is no use of youth function here, but only to declare a value and just return the value. So this m will store the value 10 here. So just m into fact. So whatever the factorial value will be there, the m should be multiplied with that factorial value. So m value it will store 10, and factorial value if I will pass 5 as the value of n, the factorial value will be 120. So 120 into 10 is 1200. The output should be 1200, and the rest of the thing will be same because it will return that output 1200. It will store into a variable z integer type and it will print it. Very simple. Clear? So just run it. I'm just passing the value of the n variable 5, then it will give the value 1200. This is the output 1200. So it one new concept I have learned here is a nested function. Nested function is a function within another function, just like a nested loop. A loop will be running within another loop. In the same way, function will be running within another function. Okay, this is a function declaration factorial. It is a nested function within that particular function. So one function may call another function, but the final function should be called by the main function. That is must be called by the main function. That is very important. If the main function is not connected to the final function, then that particular functions will never be executed because the controller or the compiler does not understand anything outside this main. So whatever you will write in this case, then the interpreter does not understand all these things. So it will understand only the main part. So that's why all the other functions, all the other sub modules should be connected or calling from the main function. So I have here written the function call, function declaration, everything I have mentioned here. So this is all about the basics of the functions. Please practice programs as many as possible. Whatever program you have done till now in previous classes, from starting class to up to ADA, all the programs can be easily run by using functions. So at your home, try to define I try to do the Fibonacci series using function, try to do the prime numbers using function, try to do the odd even number using function. Whatever program we have done till now, all the array programs you can do by using function. But array using function is concept is different, that I will show in my next video lectures how to use array in functions. Okay, and also show one of the special topic of function, that is uh, uh, recursion of a function. Very, very important topic. Lots of questions are coming from the recursion of a function, and also how to use pointer in the function, because there are two concepts, call by value and call by reference. These two are a very important concept in functions. Call by value, till now I have shown whatever I have shown, all are call by value. Call by value means we are passing the we are calling the function based on passing the value. So this is a call by value. Okay, so instead of passing the value, I am passing the address of this value. That means the address variable of this particular value, instead of passing a direct the values. So this is a call by address or call by reference. Okay, so that I will show in my next video lecture. So up to this, I think all of you have understand the basic use of functions. So thank you, and best of luck.